I love music. Classical, classic jazz, rock and roll, popular. My favorite is rock and roll, but I love it all. I'm standing next to a drawing of some of my favorite musical artists. Some of the things I love best about music is when two different qualities of some type are juxtaposed. It could be an apparent difference between lyrics and music, like happy lyrics against sad or dark music, or vice versa. It could be differences in rhythms between different instruments, or the right and left hand of the piano. Or it could be dissonance followed by consonance. By juxtaposition in music, we can add and release tension and create more appealing and cool music. Now, by juxtaposition in composition in photography, I mean showing two subjects in an image that are similar in one way or different in another, similar to music. These differences or similarities could be anything. It could be subject, color, shape, size, clarity, contrast, number, anything. Emphasizing these things in the same image can create tension and add interest, just like in music. And these things make your image much more compelling. And I'm going to show you some examples. But remember, these are just guidelines. These are ideas, not rules, when composing our pictures. And you, as always, are the ultimate judge. So let's check out some examples of juxtaposition in photography. Here is an image of a porcupine, fish, and a snorkeler in the same image. Two totally different subjects, but each with a similar expression and sort of complementary angles, head, body, face tilt. The goggles on the snorkeler make her eyes a similar color to the porcupine fish, and the mouths look kind of similar too. Either subject alone would have probably been boring, but the two together, in my opinion, makes this image interesting. The next three examples simply show juxtaposed complementary colors, which can add interest to the image. Orange and blue, complementary colors, yellow and purple in this nudibranch, and red and green in this parrotfish close-up. Here is something a little different. Two different subjects with the same color. The red eye in the octopus is emphasized by combining it or juxtaposing it with the same color of the blurred coral, the reddish coral in the foreground. In this image, the bland, almost colorless blue background really further emphasizes the brilliant colors of this fish, which my strobe illuminated in a closer distance. This is an image of a horseshoe crab. The eye and the marking over the eye have a similar color, but contrasting shapes, one linear and one more oval. This image shows a silhouette of two different subjects, a diver and a barracuda. They're two different subjects, but they both have kind of a similar shape, both sort of like thick lines, but a different orientation, creating a sort of angle. I'm not sure if the lines in the upper right of the image add further interest or not. I think more likely they're a distraction. It probably would have been better if I could have eliminated them somehow. Here we simply have an image of two identical trunkfish with similar gaze and orientation, but the difference obviously being sizes. In this image we have two tarpon, but different focus and contrast, one clear and well-defined and the other blurred and somewhat faded. This image is probably somewhat boring material for sure, but I honestly kind of like something about it, and I think it's the juxtaposition of the high contrast in the foreground with the low contrast structures in the background, sort of applying depth or mood or atmosphere. Here we again have the same species, similar size, orientation, focus, color, but we have juxtaposed two groups, one in terms of the number of fish. One of them is one fish and the other one has several fish. Maybe I'm stretching this a little bit. And another thing we can do is show a certain pattern, like the scales and colors here of a close-up of a parrotfish, and then break the pattern, here with the flare of the pectoral fin at the lower part of the image. So this is just some examples of juxtaposition in composition in photography. And one final thing, speaking of multiple subjects, we previously discussed amputations in framing and negative space, room to breathe. Maybe I should have mentioned this in the earlier episodes, but it's always good to avoid mergers and leave negative space between two subjects. Here we have a snorkeler behind a turtle. Here it's much better when there's a little space. And this is another thing to keep in mind when we're juxtaposing two subjects in an image. So thank you so much for your attention. I hope you found this helpful.